Alrighty. Got some rhythm and dancing that last piece. I was dancing on the table. I don't know if anyone, hopefully you weren't seeing that because you should be not looking at me, but it's good, grooving. So, alright, we are going to go right ahead and jump right into our next featured reader. Yeah. That's happening right now. Cool. So, Loria Mendoza hails from Austin, Texas, where she learned to keep it weird. Her stories have been published in the Walrus Literary Journal, featured at the MFA Mixer, East Crawl, Red Light Lit, Voz Sin Tinta. She studies fiction in the Creative Writing MFA program at San Francisco State University and is working on a novel. Fuck it. Let's call it another collection of short stories, and while we're at it, let's assume the title would be something like 69 Ways to Ruin Good Oral Sex. Yes. All right, please welcome Loria Mendoza.
Thanks for the alcohol, Velra. Woo! I'm just kidding. I'm totally sober. Like all writers all the time. Must be. So I need some audience participation. If you feel comfortable reading in a Texas accent, but since we're all in California, no one's gonna fucking know. You can do a Georgia accent if you want. It's gonna be fine. So I need a dude, and I need a wife to this dude. So who wants to do it? Dude number one?
Oh, sure.
Mr. Himmelstein? What about Mrs. Himmelstein? Can I get a Mrs. Himmelstein? I see a volunteer right here. There you go. Great. So that's going to be not for this, but I'll give you all a cue when I'm reading from a novel, maybe, collection of short stories. Who fucking cares? Y'all are just here for the free wine and to see your friends. Okay, so here I am. There it is. Let's party, right? Okay, thanks so much for the new Velra curator. And I'm going to pretend like this wasn't part of my 15 minutes, even though it totally should be. So, this is called Dámelo o te lo quito, which is Spanish for give it to me or I will take it from you. We drink aluminum salted Modelos. Yum. Peel off the bottoms and bury them among the small crowns of fire I've ignited in the dirt. You call them dahlias, these toothy fistfuls of tombstone violet and blood yellow petals, and the slugs are eating them. So we bury the bottoms of our empty Modelos and pour in a sip of the beer for the slugs to drown in. We sit outside and devour apples we steal from the yard next door. So delicious we even eat the cores, suck the seeds bare, before finally spitting them out into the fountains of bubbling beer slime in our own yard. We seem to get all the slugs, you say. I know it's because our garden is overrun with flowers. There's nowhere to put the cuttings. I'd like to have a vase, bell gold colored glass, keep flowers on the kitchen table, next to a bowl of apples and a woven basket of pandulce. But there's nowhere to put flowers, or apples, or even the fucking pandulce. I count the broken things in the room that cannot be thrown out because they were your father's before he died. The kitchen table is broken, covered in a brown, fuzzy mold soft as a peach dimple that makes your eyes water even when you aren't crying salt into our slug traps. The table groans as if it were alive, as if it were dying, and spits its rotting spores into the air, covering even the sunny window panes with a noxious film, while we go without bread because there's nowhere to fucking put it. A steel box confession lingers in my throat like an unchewed grape. I'd rather have bread. I would never refuse you, but if you were to come back, what shoes would you wear? Where would you go, and where would I stay? Would he step out of his funeral clothes, kick up the bones of his feet upon the rotting wood table, spores leaping into the air, filling the cracks of our walls with agony? The architecture of mourning, I will tell you, a dead man can bring down walls. All the memories you hold on to, like your dead father's broken table. Dámelo o te lo quito. Not because I want to deny you your grief, but because you need a place to sit, hang your golden head, and cry, and because I want to break bread with you in the morning. Right. Oh, it's counting up. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and start reading from a longer story. So, queued up? Y'all ready for this? Alright, cool. I don't know what this is going to be. I think it's going to be something about maybe Texas and like drugs and aliens. I don't know. So, whatever. Just deal with it. This is untitled. But if you think of titles, who's like good at titling anything? Do y'all just like put on titles because you have to sometimes? Right? Okay, so yeah. So whatever. This has no title. Tizzy Ballou had come home from a long day of chasing her own thin-skinned tail around West Texas towns again. It seemed always again to an empty house. The summer's deepening lengthened to sickly hot, sometimes up to 116-degree Fahrenheit days. The cooling nights should have felt remedial, as they had every year throughout Tizzy's long life. Well, I'm like 27, so like 27-year-old life. But lately, she'd come to dread them. Her work for the Austin Sun, the map flipping, the hours-long dust-eating drives, the constant rehydrating to avoid heat stroke, resulting in the constant pulling over to pee in rattlesnake ridges or diarrhea-filled glory hole drilled gas station bathrooms, the relentless inquisition of others' lives rather than her own, kept her anxiety about her relationship with Sandra flatlined from 8 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night, 6 days a week. But pulling into the empty driveway in front of 10101 Mercury Court had sent her into a dry mouse panic. Every night for the past few weeks, she'd sat in her car, trying to swallow, counting the cracks in the driveway. Practically an extension of herself, she thought. Empty, barren, sun-damaged, in need of a good power wash. She wondered if people driving or walking by could tell just from the looks of her driveway that she was on the cusp of losing everything, and as if to prove anyone who might be watching, and no one ever was. But just to prove them wrong, Tizzy would invariably kill the engine, practically skip into her house, whistling what she thought was the Andy Griffith song. It was as if there was only evidence of Sandra giving less and less shits about their relationship. Sandra stayed out late almost every night in their 2-room ranch house, which until recently had been kept fairly pristine, was a symbol of their blissful domestic commitment to each other. Now seemed utterly uncared for. On the kitchen table was Tizzy's most recent article in the Marfa Sun, which he hadn't found the time to clip with all the extra hours in the office these past few weeks, lying in a soggy heap under one of Sandra's tea bags. The words Sandra had chosen so carefully in a frenetic coffee-fueled all-nighter with Tizzy now bled into a murky pool of orange peels and bitters. Curses, Earl Grey. Then there was Sandra's underwear, bunched up in her jeans, tossed over the love seat, one sock sticking stiffly out of the left pant leg, the other sock flaking foot crust and prop blood into the cavity of Tizzy's typewriter. Sorry, don't your characters just like piss you off sometimes? God, Sandra, being such a bitch. There were a dozen or so empty bottles of Lone Star Lager trailing out of the overflowing garbage bin. Tizzy had asked Sandra to take them out at least once a day for the last week since Sandra was in recovery, since Tizzy was in recovery and the mere scent of beer could break her down these days. She was pretty sure fruit flies were beginning to breed in one of the older ones, and a cloud of them poured out of the neck of one when she tapped it with the steel toe of her boot. Tizzy looked at the clock and sighed heavily. It was almost 9. Sandra would have finished shooting more than 3 hours ago. Tizzy, feeling the pangs of jealousy, began to put things in the right place, hoping that when Sandra returned, she would be grateful, perhaps even give her a little affection. That's all she could hope for these days, was a little affection. She went around the house, opening all the windows, even the nights in Marfa were just too fucking hot. It was still 90 fucking degrees outside, Jesus Christ, without an air conditioner, and a broken icebox, and one depressed, fucking shitty, wobbly ceiling fan. Leaving all the windows open was a survivalist measure, but naturally it let in the pill bugs, the June bugs, the cicadas, once even a fucking bat. Tonight there was a cricket drawing in a sip of wine left unfinished in a glass from Sandra's nightcap the day before. Tizzy had been watching it, unfeeling to its suffered squirming while reading over and over again a telegram she'd received the night before from a man claiming to be her half-brother. Tizzy looked at the cricket now, hair-like antenna twitching lazily, its Olympian legs slowly aerating the $2 Cabernet. What's up? Sorry about that $2 buck check. And then what seemed to be one last-ditch effort to push itself up from the round eye of the goblet. Tizzy picked up the glass by the stem and held it far away from herself. She hated bugs. It was flying at her head, getting stuck in the coiled locks of her waist-length hair. But she hated confrontation, refused to come into contact with any unknown creature, no matter how solicitous. She threw open a window and tossed the cricket wine out the door. See you later, Jiminy. Tizzy knew it'd be back. That's what made a thing a pest, its loyal return. Tizzy looked at the clock. It was almost 9:15.
I swear to God, devil woman, if I find out you've been running around, I'll pull your fat head right the fuck off.
Oh yeah? Just you try it, you biscuit-eating, pussy-sneaking sumbitch.
There was the sound of glass breaking, heavy furniture feet scraping the concrete floor, the crackle of it falling over onto its splintered, worn-down frame. Along with insects, the open windows ushered in the screams of the Himmelsteins. It was the heat. Summer crime rates were at an all-time high, broken car windows lying in continental-shaped shards on the curbsides, missing beers in the six-packs at the 7-Eleven, a dozen missing locals, their fading faces plastered on every splintered fence, and of course, the Himmelsteins. A supple redneck couple in their early 50s who stayed with each other through the nightly quarrels, infidelities, and creative death threats. The neighbors didn't even bother calling the cops anymore. They were incorrigible. Everyone knew they would never leave each other. Never had yet, anyway. Tizzy almost envied them for that. And I kind of ran down time, so I'm just gonna skip ahead. Tizzy looked at the ceiling fan. It seemed to be whining in sympathy, wobbling to the point she thought it might come crashing down at any second. Tizzy grabbed a screwdriver from the utensil drawer and, standing on one of the dining room chairs, holding the ceiling fan into place by the blade, began tightening the loose, rusted screws in the ceiling fan while listening to the Himmelsteins, half hoping for a murder-suicide, something to captivate Sandra's ever-wondering mind. Maybe because of her immediacy to the incident, she'd even be assigned to the coverage. Hot damn. Luckily, and lately, her boss, Credo Williams, had been sending Tizzy all over the county. But skipping. Lately, it was, for the most bootless, conspiratorial, paranoia-ridden story. Men in black hats have been spotted gauging various water sources throughout town by various laid-off locals, ranchers, and old wives. No one in Marfa wore black. It's too fucking hot. Entirely too casual. People preferred cutoffs, tie-dye tank tops, flip-flops. It was barely clad city in the summertime, and many residents, men and women alike, oft opted to go topless, sweating nipples and all. Naturally, a dark suit drew attention. It's the feds, man. And if they're here in Marfa, I can guarantee you this, Guido had told Tizzy halfway through a 2-paper joint. Project Lovekill, man. There had been whispers amongst the counterculture across the nation of the feds, putting acid in the water of various towns for the final aim of mind control. Marfa residents, 3,000 artists, musicians, and pot farmers, seemed to Credo to be the next logical bullet point on the list of public enemies of the state. Tizzy was to interview the witnesses of these men in suits, as well as a cluster of people who had seen paranormal phenomenon, lights in the sky that Credo took as proof that people were tripping on the feds' reservoir drugs. But the drives were long, the interviewees confused. The feds had already gotten to them, according to Credo. And Tizzy was home less and less. Not that it mattered, seeing as how Sandra was never there either.
I hope you die in your sleep.
So do I, you stupid bitch. Who won't want to die in their sleep?
Tizzy thought about it. Marvin Hamilton had a point. Seemed like the best way to go. She looked at the clock. 9:22. It's early 9:22. All right, great. Sandra would undoubtedly show up drunk, out of cigarettes and cash, unapologetic for absent selfishness, possible infidelities. I mean, shit, just smell her panties. Infidelities. They were definitely possible. It seemed to Tizzy that the day Sandra had started filming for Texas Table Saw Slaughter, their relationship had begun to hemorrhage itself with the passion they'd felt for 3 years running. It would have been better if the relationship had just died peacefully in their sleep, to wake up one morning and both parties simply fine, thought they loved the other. Let's see, and I'll just skip ahead. Oh, thanks for reading, you guys, that's great. So basically, I'm going to stop there because I want to read one more piece. I'm almost out of time. And y'all are like cutting down people this year. No more 30-minute featured readers. Thank Jesus, titty dancing Christ. I'm sorry not to offend it. So I'm going to read something really short. So don't worry. I have 5 minutes left anyways. Does anyone want to get really drunk in here? This is called Of a Feather. And y'all want to hear like something sexy to like recover? This is like also dark. You want something sexy?
No.
No? No one wants anything sexy? I can like compromise.
What you want, babe? It's your work.
4 minutes.
Alright.
Are you gonna move?
I'm always in the mood, babe. Alright, so I'm gonna read this other thing. It's called Continental Drift. Sleep where you can, she said. Our mother's voices pushed at the locks in the cabinets above our heads. They were talking about some shit like the War of the Roses, maybe the summer at the Hotel Forest, while 32 shades of blue filled the cracks in your windows, snout-shaped patterns we filled with hot-breath coronas collapsing on candlelight. The nails in our shore-worn feet clicked in our sleep, hooked us together tectonically. We were always falling head over heels, in and out of bed, disrupting continents. The shores of our appetites rushing forward before coming apart at the seams of our brackish garments. We held our conched fingers to each other's ears whilst we fucked, because I wanted destination wedding sex on the beach, and you swore we would hear the fucking ocean. But we only heard a body fall to the floor above us, and then nothing. Sleep when you can, she said. Never too much, just enough, only enough. We kept track of the minutes until the clock fell in the waste bin by our heads. Perhaps the ticking rhythm of motion reminded us of the heartbeats in our mother's palms as they slapped us over and over again across our small, fresh faces. There was never enough air in the room to cry sanctuary, just enough, only enough to keep me terrified. Sleep with who you can, she said, and I was no longer so damn depressed, evidently seduced by that brandy in your irises, or the way you helped me remember to breathe. How do we fix our broken chronicles? We never even bothered to fix that fucking window pane. But where does the light shine through? And where does the cold seep in? And I'm done. Thank you.